enough, moving forward enough, because rejection is where true growth really lies. And in this book, Rejection Proof, Jia Zhang talks about how you can learn about rejection, and you can employ strategies that will allow you to get better at handling rejection, and also get better at somehow getting to a yes when you're just about to get rejected. So let's try to understand. Let's try to dig into the big ideas in the book, and we're going to talk about one big idea, the first big idea from the book, which is the fact that every rejection has a number. Because there's so many times in life we get rejected by so many different people for so many different things, but realize that every rejection has a number. And when you fight through enough no's, when you find rejections, you will eventually find a yes. Sometimes you might have to fight through 10 no's, sometimes you might have to find through 500 no's. You don't know, but every rejection has a number. The more rejections you're willing to face, the more rejections you're willing to go after, the more valuable that object of desire is for you, the more valuable that thing that you're after is to you. So if you are going after a sale and the customer has rejected you numerous times, or you've been rejected by numerous times by different customers, you trying to make it happen, you are going to go through that process. First rejection is not going to deter you from not making that sale, and maybe not even the fourth rejection or the fifth rejection, because you realize that every rejection has a number. Now there are some real examples from real life of different people. One of them is the movie Rocky. When Sylvester Stallone was trying to sell the script Rocky, he wanted to act in it as well, and he received more than 100 no's in the process of trying to sell the script for Rocky to producers around, and he got rejected multiple times by the same producers. That's how bad it was. But he kept on going. He was almost broke, but he kept on going because that thing that he was after, it was really valuable to him. That object of desire, that the dream of becoming a movie star, was so valuable that he would take as many no's as he had to in order to get there. So how valuable is your dream? How big is your dream? That'll allow you to, um, if you have a really big dream, you will allow yourself a lot of rejections, because you know that you will settle for nothing less than that big dream you have. If you really, really, really want it, you will do it no matter what. And Elon Musk has a pretty amazing quote where he says that, um, if if you really want to do, if something is really important to you, you must go after it. You must go after it even if the likely outcome is failure. What he's really saying is, if something is really important to you, you must go after it even though you might get rejected a lot of times, even if you might get rejected a thousand different times, but you still must go after it, because every rejection has a number. If it is important to you, if it is valuable to you, if the object of desire is really crucial, then you will find a way. Another example is Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, one of the greatest books, and it was rejected 112 times. Similarly, J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter was rejected tens of times by publishers. So rejections are a part of life, and as entrepreneurs we got to take them in stride and realize that every rejection has a number. The more important something it is to you, the more rejections you might have to take to get there. Now I want you to do an exercise for today's lesson, and here's the exercise: why before buy. And let me explain the exercise. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to ask people, when you get rejected, you're going to ask them, why did you say no to me? Ask them, why did they say no to you? And then ask another question: how could I have improved? So when you go out today to make that sale or to get that prospect to talk to you, when they reject your move, when they reject your sale offer, ask them, why did they say no? And also ask them, how could I have improved? How could I have made the sale to you today? So that's your homework for today. That's the exercise for today. So we just discussed One of the big ideas from the book Rejection Proof by Jia Jiang. Of course, there's a whole bunch of other big ideas. The idea of don't reject yourself, and the idea of embracing rejection in order to become rejection proof. Yeah, it sounds kind of paradoxical, but true. And of course, how to get to yes, a whole bunch of strategies there. And understanding that rejection by others is not a reflection of uh, your capability. Sometimes it's just their personal opinion. And also that rejection has an upside. So okay, so we talked about how every rejection has a number. Now let's talk about how we should not reject ourselves. What that means is, in this world, the worst rejection we will ever get is the rejection that we give to ourselves, because we reject ourselves more than the world will ever reject us. We tell ourselves no way more than the world will ever tell ourselves no. We tell ourselves that we're not capable enough, good enough, strong enough, powerful enough to go after a specific dream that we have, the vision that we have, the goal that we have. So the ultimate battle in life is to stop rejecting ourselves. Because when we shy away from external rejection, we are rejecting ourselves even before anyone else has the opportunity to do so. So the greatest lesson is to, no matter what, don't get ignored by the world, because rejecting yourself, when you're not even putting yourself there, you are being ignored by the world. And in this game of entrepreneurship, if you're not allowing yourself to get rejected, if you are constantly living in the fear of being ignored, of being rejected by the world, you are being ignored by the world, and that is the worst. So don't reject yourself. Now, another really important idea is to embrace rejection to become rejection proof. Now, this is a beautiful paradox, and if you have followed my work for any period of time, you will know that paradoxes really are so powerful. And the only way, in some ways, to become rejection proof is to embrace it as part of life. Because as soon as you stop running away from this rejection, as soon as you stop running away from this fear of rejection, it becomes a great ally. It becomes a gift. It's a As soon as we embrace the fact that it's a part of life and it's no big deal, now you have power over it. It's so paradoxical. It's so hard to explain, but it's so easy to understand when you see it, when you accept the truth and you see that on a day-to-day basis. It's not just about rejection, it's about every challenge in life. As soon as we embrace that, the fact that life has problems, that life has challenges, I remember I was in a Tony Robbins seminar one time, and he started off by saying that the biggest problem that you have is the feeling, is the idea that you have in your head that you're not supposed to have problems. Again, the biggest problem you have is your thought that you're not supposed to have problems. Really important, really powerful concept if you think about it. Most of us are running away from problems. We're trying to run away from life in many ways because we think these problems are making our life miserable. But we have to realize problems are a part of life. Problems are what make life fun. And the same way, rejection is what makes life fun. As soon as we accept rejection as part of life, as part of our entrepreneurial endeavors, or as part of our relationship, we begin to ease ourselves into it. When once we accept accept when once we embrace rejection and once we accept rejection as part of life, we don't have the same challenges against it, and we stop trying to fight it. So, really important concept. Okay, so now let's talk about a few strategies, really important, powerful strategies, and these are exercises of how to get to yes in the face of rejection. The first is basically positioning yourself for yes when you're going into a sales call, or where you're going into, you're trying to meet someone, or you're trying to meet someone influential. You want to give a why for your request. And this idea comes from Robert Cialdini's book, Influence. You'll see there that he talks about how even the smallest why, or almost like a non-existent why, just the act of giving a why is better than no why at all. So give a reason for your request, and with every request you start with I, because that makes you credible, that makes you human, and people believe you. Another way to position yourself for yes in a sales situation or any specific situation where you might get rejected is to acknowledge the doubts that the person might have. Think about what doubts might they already have in the situation. Even before you get into the sales call, or even before you go into that situation where you might be rejected, write down 5 possible doubts that that person might have. And then as you start the conversation, acknowledge those doubts in your conversation. Don't try to be um, completely 100% um, um, perfect. That's not the way it goes, because no matter what kind of situation you're in, the other person will have doubts about your offer, about your sales situation, about your specific thing that you're offering. So acknowledge those doubts and bring them in the conversation, and then you will be positioning this conversation for us. Okay, another key is what happens when we are rejected, when we are given a no. The key is to retreat, not route. A route is when you just run away, but a retreat is when you go back, you regroup, you think about what are the possibilities, how else you could handle the situation, how else you could propose a solution that would be beneficial to both the parties, and then go back to them. A retreat means that you will go back and try to get a yes again. Another way to handle a no when you have been rejected, when you have been turned down, is to collaborate. Don't try to contend, don't try to oppose their ideas. Instead, try to collaborate with them and see how you can make it a win win for both of you. Because when you're collaborating, when you're making a win win for both of you, that's when the no will become a yes. So, two key exercises when you're going into a sales situation, when you're going into a situation when you might feel like you might get rejected. Okay. Okay. Another great idea is the idea that rejection is a personal opinion. Rejection, with no matter what kind of rejection you encounter in life, that rejection is dependent on that rejecting person's, that rejector's personal bias, and it could be dependent on so many different things. It could be dependent on their education, their culture, their upbringing, their family, their current emotional state. Maybe that person, that guy had a fight with his wife, maybe she had a fight with her daughter, or whatever that situation might be. That is the one that causes a personal, that causes you rejected, because they're not in a good emotional state. Now, you don't want to take that rejection as personal, because it's not an indictment on yourself. Unfortunately, most of us, we think that rejection is an indictment on your self worth. And you start to blame yourself for it, but you have to think that rejection is just a personal opinion of the other person. It's an opinion of the other person of your offer. It's not indictment on your self esteem, your self worth. Okay, so here's an exercise. When you are going into a situation where you might potentially get rejected, write about all the personal biases the rejector has which could have caused this rejection. Write about all the reasons, all the personal opinions the person might have had, which could have caused this rejection, rather than think about how you failed, rather than think about how it is an indictment on your self worth. Really powerful exercise. If you do it again and again over time, it builds that system in your immune system in your mind, because you start to think of any given rejection as just another personal opinion of someone, and not necessarily an indictment on yourself. Okay, another great idea is that every rejection has an upside. Even though rejection feels terrible, it feels bitter in the moment, that rejection has a huge upside. And the upside could be in terms in the frame of a motivation. For example, Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team, and that rejection stung, but he used that as a motivation throughout his life and became the greatest basketball player ever. Another way to think of rejection is that when you get rejected, you actually build resilience and you become anti-fragile. What anti-fragile means is not something that actually does not break under. What? Okay, so fragile means something like glass that will break with just a little bit of pressure or a little bit of hurt on it. But anti-fragile is the opposite of fragile. It's not just something that will not break; it's actually gets stronger when something when that thing is being put through a test, or it's being rejected, or it's being hurt. And that's the way we want to look at life. We want to become anti-fragile in case of challenges, in face of rejections. We want to not only not break down, but we want to become stronger. We want to become anti-fragile, and that is what rejection can do for us. It has tremendous upside. Another key is that when you get rejected, you can go back, you can regroup and think about how you can improve the next time around. So you can learn, you can improve, and go for the next offer, the next prospect, or whatever it might be. Now, here's the exercise you want to do for rejection proof. Go back to a time when you felt really rejected, when you felt really turned down, when you felt like that was a horrible rejection. Now, look back again from the point of view of the fact that it helped you. Even though you might think that it never helped you, think of how it actually helped you. Just come up, if you can't come up with anything, realize that there is something that rejection helped you with, and try to connect the dots. Try to connect the dots to see how the rejection helped you get better, get stronger, get more powerful, get motivated, made you maybe anti-fragile, made you resilient, whatever it might be. It is there. The kernel of truth is there if only you look for it. So look inside that rejection, look around that rejection, look back at all the things that happened in your life. There could be so many different things could have come out of that rejection that you might have chosen to not look at. You and once you develop this habit, when you develop that habit that no matter what kind of challenges life throws at you, there is something good about it. There is something that is coming that's going to help you get better, stronger, or whatever it might be. Then you're living life in a rejection proof way. You have become much more resilient to life's challenges.